Welcome to Instant Deck Techs. The aim of this series is to give you a short, concise guide on how to build a certain deck. It won't cover every card, but we'll go through all the categories and go over the types of cards needed to make the deck work. Any card mentioned will be down in the description below.
The commander of this deck is Minsc Beloved Ranger. It is red, green, white for a 3/3 legendary creature, Human Ranger. It has, when Minsc Beloved Ranger enters the battlefield, create Boo, a legendary 1/1 red hamster creature token with trample and haste. It also has Pay X. Until end of turn, target creature you control has base power and toughness XX, and becomes a giant in addition to its other creature types. Activate this only as a sorcery. The aim of this deck is to make the most of that Pay X ability. We're running a lot of mana ramp, so we can make some of our creatures huge, to swing through and win the game. One thing about that ability, which might not be immediately clear, is that you can pay 0, meaning the creature will die immediately. This is effectively a sack outlet, which we'll be putting to good use, as there's some really cool things you can do with it in these colours. First up is our ramp. As mentioned, we'll need a lot of it in this deck to work. The more we have, the bigger that hamster and our other creatures can get. You're looking to start somewhere between 10 and 12 bits. Kicking things off is our mana dorks. Small creatures that get us ahead early, and can then become threats in the late game. As we're a 3-colour deck, dorks that tap for other colours of mana, or preferably all colours, will have added value as that fixing will be very important. After those, we can look at some rampant growth effects. While the dorks will work better with our commander, having some redundancy is important to help make it less miserable if an opponent wipes the board. Cards that can get non-basic lands, like Farseek and 3 Visits, go up a level in this deck as they can get lands with multiple types, such as any budget dual lands that you might have. If you want to take your ramp to the next level, you can look at running some mana doublers. These will be dependent on your budget, but if you have access to them, I'd look to run up to 4. These really let you make a ton of extra mana, and this is definitely a deck that can make the most of it. The more budget options tend to give the effects to everyone, so if you're running those, be careful and make sure you're the one that gets the most use out of them. Although they don't cause our mana dorks to make any extra mana, Mirari's Wake buffing them up, and Zendikar Resurgent drawing us some extra cards will still be really solid includes in the deck, and reward us for diversifying our ramp. In a deck like this, we're looking for at least 8 bits of card draw, but more is always more. First up is cards that care about power. We have some spells like Life's Legacy, Momentous Fall, and Greater Good that let us sack a creature and then we'll draw some cards in relation to its power. We then have cards like Hunter's Insight, which let us draw some cards when we smack an opponent in the face. And then we have things like Return of the Wild Speaker and Rishkar's Expertise, which just straight draw us cards equal to the biggest thing that we control. These can be pretty mana intensive if we're buffing up our creatures first, so they do get better if you're running the mana doublers that we've just gone over. Some other options are things like Guardian Project and Soul of the Harvest. We're in Naya, and we'll be running a fair few creatures, so these will do a great job at topping up our hand. Like most decks that revolve heavily around their commander, we'll need to run some protection to keep Minsc around. Starting off with the standard Lightning Grease and Swiftfoot Boost packages is always a solid place to start, but do note we can't buff up a creature with a Lightning Grease attached because of the shroud that it gives. After that, there are some instant speed effects that can really help protect our board from any pesky board wipe that our opponents might have. Boris Charm and Okroma's Will can also work offensively, which is a very nice addition. The double strike will come back in our win cons. The amount of removal that you run will be dependent on your playgroup, but starting at 8 and going up from there is always a good place to begin. First up is classic bits of removal. Naya has some great options for both target removal and board wipes, so pick the best ones that you have available to you. Remember, if your playgroup is more competitive, to play more instant speed interaction. If you're looking for a bit more fun, however, you can run some threaten effects. Because we have that ability on Minsc to pay 0 and kill one of our own creatures, threaten effects double up as removal. We steal a creature, hit the owner in the face with it, then sack it to our commander. There's plenty of these effects out there, so I'd look for ones that provide additional bits of value, such as the Storm fun of spreading insurrection, or being able to play Song of Mad Treachery early game as a land. Sock and Vol is also a decent anthem effect for when we have a good board state. If you're running those theft effects, then you can also run some other cards that synergize nicely with them. Martyr's Bond means that all of our opponents will sack a creature whenever we kill a creature that we've stolen. Feed the Pack works the other way, by letting us actually buff the stolen creature, only to then sack it and make a load of wolves. And then Vicious Shadows is a dumb magic card that I suggest in way too many videos because it is just that good. Moving on to the win cons, but sticking with the stealing sub-theme for a moment, what works nicely with those, and the fact that we can also make our own creatures huge, is fling effects. Nothing feels better than killing an opponent by hurling their own commander at their face. I personally quite like the ones on creatures, with Brian Stoutarm and Bloodshot Cyclops being nice repeatable bits, but there are some instant speed versions of these out there as well. Next up are some cards that we want to be pumping up their power for some additional value. First of these is Mirror Entity, Wild Beastmaster, and Cultivator of Blades. Pumping all the mana into them doesn't feel so bad when it affects our whole team, and these cards can quickly finish off a game if you have any kind of board state. Another me staple is Champion of Lambold. It gets big by itself, but when combined with our commander, will easily make our board unblockable. Worth noting that when Minsc changes its base power and toughness, it will still have the buff from any +1/+1 counters on it, making it truly huge. For those times when our opponents are able to block our creatures, cards like Murder Investigation, Death's Presence, and Stalking Vengeance will all give us the extra bit of value that we need, in the form of tokens, counters, and direct damage. Our opponents will really have to think twice about blocking our stuff with these out. This is also a deck where I'd want to consider Brawn and Anger. While we have to cast them, we can sack them straight away with our commander out, give a whole board either trample or haste. These are both effects that will play really well with our game plan, and even though Boo already has them, giving them to the whole team will be really nice. And then you know what else is really good at killing your opponents? Giving your whole board double strike. This obviously all works better once we've buffed creatures up to some obscene power, and the added trample from Brawn, or the unblockable ability from Champion of Lambult will make these really dangerous. And then to add up the damage a little bit more, because Minsc ability makes the creature a giant, we can look to run Calamity Bearer for some additional pain. Lastly on the win cons, I'm going to mention Protean Hulk. Our commander can kill it instantly, so then we can immediately get its death trigger and shoot up a combo win condition. I'll put a link to a Reddit post down below that has a load of different combos that you can consider for the deck. However, running this and the support cards is much more all-in than what we're going for. We can't run too many utility lands as we are a 3-colored deck, as I mainly want to be focusing on fixing. For colourless lands, the ones I'd look at would be the lands that give our creatures extra effects, like Trample, Vigilance, Haste, and Double Strike. The rest of your mana base will be very dependent on what you have available to you. We've recently released a video with some advice on building a deck with a budget mana base, which might be of help. Until next time, please like, share and subscribe, and let us know down in the comments if there are any commanders you'd like to see a deck tech on. Thank you very much for watching.